Hi there, Tracy Nutton here. Today I'm going to be making this card for yourselves using a range of Sweet Poppy Stencils products. So for the frame, the circle frame stencil, I'm going to be using Faded Jeans Distress Ink, Picked Raspberry and Dusty Concord. Let me move those out of the way. I'm going to be using those beautiful brushes that I absolutely adore and love to apply those colours, so I'll pop those out of the way. For the clematis flower, I'm going to be using Sweet Poppy Stencils watercolour pens. They are, oh, I just love them. So you can choose any colours you like. I've got this one and this one. So the two greens are from set 1 and then the pinky colour that I've got is from set 2, but you can choose whatever ones you have depending on whatever set you have. I've got a 0.1 fine liner and I'm going to choose a sentiment from the Beautiful Day stamp set when I get there. I'm going to be using the corners because I thought, well, I've not really used them as much as I like, and I love them, so I will choose a corner to go on there today. And there's the beautiful clematis flower stencil, so let's get going. So to begin with, I'm using Bockingford watercolour cardstock, which is available from Sweet Poppy Stencils. I love it. And for this, I didn't have a card base that was cream. I only had white, so what I used was the coconut white card. I really love that, and it's almost the same colour as the Bockingford. So I've managed to cover the basic card base, which is 7 by 7, and then I've also done an extra layer using the coconut white here. It's called coconut white, but it's actually slightly off white, which is perfect for this. So let's get going. So I'm going to take my circle frame stencil and I'm going to position it in the middle of my card, pop it onto my magnetic sheet, and then I'm going to use the low tack tape just to secure it. Some of the processes that I'm doing today are will take a bit of time, so I will let you know when I will speed them forward for yourselves, but this bit is quite quick, so just making sure that it won't move. So I'm going to just load up my brushes. I'm going to grab a piece of kitchen towel because I will need that for when I am using my watercolours, but I also like to just make sure that my colours are not too intense, because as you can see on the back end of this is really quite delicate and fine, so, and soft. So let's go. So I'm going to put some pink up here, some pink down here. Grab my Faded Jeans and we'll go this way. Faded Jeans into here, Faded Jeans into here. And then finally, Dusty Concord. I quite like this one as well. This is a nice shade of purple as well. So, and then that will go into there, back into the pink. There we go. So to begin with, all I do is I just plot out where I'd like those colours to go, and now I can just go back in and make sure that I'm covering all of those areas. Checking that the blue is covering everywhere. And the good thing about choosing the complementary colours is if the blue touches the pink, it will still make purple, and likewise. So you should end up with a really nice complementary blend. And no mud. Right, so that's that done. So let's pop those out of the way. Okay, let's see what we've got. Removing my low tack tape. So gently tease that back, nice and soft, beautiful. Let's pop that on there and then I'll give that a wash. So for the next part, what I did was I took the clematis circle and grab a different magnetic sheet. There we go, put that back on there, and then I just worked out where I wanted it to go. So my sentiment is going over this side. So for this, I'm just going to pop the flower on slightly over here, which I think is really nice. And then I'm just taking a pencil, let's take it straight, that's better. And I'm just going to take a pencil and take my time to draw around the stencil. And I'm going to do all of that, including the stem. But when I do the stem, I'm just going to make sure that the stem doesn't go past the frame. So I'm just going to keep it in the frame. And the same for this part here, just making sure that it doesn't go lower than the frame itself. And then when I remove the stencil, it should have that configuration of flower there. But if I wanted another one up there, I could have easily have added that in, flipped it over, and then that stem I could have fed further down. So you can play around with your stencil however you would like, but I want that space there so that I can add my sentiment. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take my watercolour pens, some water, and I've got a brush here. The brush that I'm using is a major brush, it's a number 4. It's quite a thin one. Just going to move my chair a little bit closer and remove the magnetic sheet. Okay, so for this part, I'm not as good as a lot of the other DT team ladies are, but what I did was I just added colour to the bottom end of the stencil, the stencil image. Okay, so I do a flower at a time. Oh, missed that bit up there, look at that. Okay, let's pop this over the side. And then what I did was I took my brush, and if I move this over so that you can see exactly what I'm doing. So I just slightly wet the top end of the petal. It's not flooded, I dabbed it onto the tissue paper, but then what I did was I just carefully dragged the ink or the pen out and then took it right up to the end. There we go. And so it's almost, there's almost nothing on this end, but it's more intense here. Then I go to the next petal and I do exactly the same. Taking the dark, smoothing it out towards the end. Creating that lovely spectrum of colour as it fades out almost to nothing. And when it's here and it's going over, just spend a little bit of time, water, and just wiggling it backwards and forwards, just so that you lose the frame. Okay, let's do this one. So again, and you can watch it, it's like a capillary effect. It just bleeds all the way up the petal. And if it looks like it's going to be too intense, take it off. That's why I've got the tissue there. I just want to say as well, if it goes over the line, don't panic. So if I've got a piece here that was just over this line like I have here, just make it quite wet, grab a piece of tissue, clean side, and then just blot it. If it looks like it's gone out, again, go in with your water, let it just sit for a second, and then blot it out, and then it's gone. But for this technique, it doesn't have to be perfect. And just make sure that you go to the end of each petal, because if you don't, where the water stops is where you'll get a water line. Okay, so now I'll just do the same as I did before. A little bit of pink on the end so that I can drag it through. Just going to put a little bit here and here, and then I'll speed this part up and then come back when I'm doing the stems, because I do them slightly different. For the stems, I used the darker colour, and I just took the darker colour, just making sure you can see, and just continued it all the way up. And then I did the same for this bit. And then I followed this line very carefully for this bit. And then I got the lighter colour, and then I just ran it up this edge. And then the same here. And then carefully back round there. Okay. And I still grab my water, dry it out a little bit, and all I'm going to do is just blend that in so that it comes across. And then I just did a quick line down here which merges the darker green in with the lighter green, and that's it. So I'm going to give it a quick blast with the heat gun because I'm going to draw around it now, so I need to make sure that it is dry so that it doesn't affect my pen. And what I'm going to do now is turn it up the right way, obviously, and take my pen. So to add a bit of interest, because I didn't feel confident in my watercolour, and actually if I bring it up, I'm not embarrassed to show you, it is by no means perfect. I've got a little bit of bleed in here. It's probably not as blended as well as some of the other DTT members who are absolutely amazing. But I thought, right, okay, what can I do? So I thought, you know what, grab your black pen and just draw a couple of times around it, and literally just make sure that the second one isn't quite set as same as the other one, and then I just wiggled into the middle for that. And just drew around each one. So all I did was here, was on these parts, I just went round each part of the leaf only, so all the way around the stencil. So I'll do the flower and I'll do the rest of the circle frame stencil, and then I'll bring you back and then I'll show you what else I did next. Okay, so as you can see, I have gone around all of the flower petals, but I haven't done the stems yet, and I'll show you why, and then I'll show you how I added a bit more extra interest to the design. So for the leaves or the stems, I only went round them once because it is such a small area. I didn't want it to be overcrowded and lose the green colour. So as you can see, I've just taken my time, and then I'm going to turn my card so that it's easier for me to try and have a steady hand, just so that I can do this stem. Apologies for the going quiet, but probably sat here with my tongue out. Okay, now to add some extra interest, as you can see in this original design, if I could pick it up. Okay, I added some dots and some swirls and some interest here on the petals as well. So I'm going to show you how to do that, and then I'll speed it up again. So I tried to keep all of the dots on the same side, but it's not, I didn't do any science behind it. I just had a bit of a go. And then for these parts, the dots, I just added some swirls and then added 3 dots down each side, and I just carried on doing that all the way around. And then when it came to the petals, I did exactly the same. I literally just dotted down to just give it some shading on each of the petals, but I wasn't being very, not taking my time, and I'm not being very accurate. It's not science, it's just how I felt to just add a bit of interest. So I'll carry on doing that and then I'll bring you back. So I've now finished going around all of, oh, missed one, look at that, cheeky, all of the petals, adding in some dots. And as you can see, I've added, let me bring it up to you, all of the dots in the petals around, and up here I've added the 3 dots just like I did in my original design. The only other thing I did in my original over there was to put some stitching around here. Now I just kept a close eye. You might have to just pay attention as you do this. Don't take a phone call or anything, or a knock at the door, because you want to make sure that I'm using my hand and I'm just twisting the card around and just doing the same motion all the way around, just evenly distributing the fine lines. And the only thing I now need to do for this is to add a sentiment. So let's pop it on here. I can either use Smile It's Your Birthday or Have a Beautiful Day. I might do Smile It's Your Birthday, I quite like that. Or, oh, I could do Thanks. Look at that, I got so excited. Let's do Thanks, quite like that. So, let's just organise myself. Where do I want my thanks? This is the question. It's quite a chunky one, but I think it will work. Oh, I don't know. Is it a little bit too? Let's think. Maybe Smile It's Your Birthday ever so slightly smaller. Let's have a little look. I think that fits better. Okay, right. So let's have a look. I'm just going to plonk it straight on because it's a clean stamp, so it's fine. Move my acetate out the way. Roughly settle in. Yes, that looks That actually does fit better. Down up, let's see if it's straight. Just think it needs to go down a bit. There we go. So for my stamping, I'm going to use the VersaFine Clair Nocturne. That seems to be my go-to. Oh, now I'm wondering whether that is straight or not. Let's have a quick look before I stamp it. That would be a shame, wouldn't it? Oh, do you know what? Let's just do it. Be brave. Here's hoping. Oh, actually, that was all right. Okay. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to just give it a quick wipe, because I do need to remove it from my stamp press so that I can put my corners on. So I thought for this design, it's quite ornate, and there's corner spaces. You could leave it. You could just mat it up, layer it up and finish it, and I will show you. Or you can add the corners. So I'll show you both ways, because then it's your choice. So if I was to mat and layer this up now, I would grab my card base, I would grab a matte layer, apologies for my arm in front of the camera, and then I would layer that up. And without the corners, that's what your card would look like. And with the corners, that's what it looks like. So it depends on how elaborate you want your design to look. I quite like it that way, but I don't know, I really like the idea of the corners, because I feel like they're very, very pretty. So what you do if you're doing your corner stamps and you want to make sure that it is in all corners, to try and make sure that it is equal. Okay, I'm bringing those in. Let's take that one off. Right, so I've chosen that little tiny one. I did look at all of them. I went round, I peeled them all off the acetate, and this is what I love about Sweet Poppy Stencils stamps, is you get the printed version on a lot of them, you do now. And then I tried and I was like, oh no, that's too big. I quite like that one would work, but I thought it was too thick. If I'd used the thanks sentiment, maybe that would have worked better. Then I was like, oh, I really like that one, and I was like, oh no, that one's too big. And then I looked and I just thought, oh hello, that works perfectly. So grab my beautiful little corner, and I am using the sheet of acetate. I'm going to put the acetate down. She says she's put the acetate down, it's hiding. There we go. And then what I did was I just lined it up as best as I could, using the eye, thinking that this is tucked into this corner down here. Let me move that up a bit. There we go. And then all I did was I bumped it down, took it up, removed the acetate, and just had a look. So I'm just going to pull it off. Just want to make sure, oh, apologies, just want to make sure that it is straight, and it is straight. But in order for me to just check, I got a scrap piece of card. It is scrap because I was looking at creating some scenes before, and then I just popped it into the corner. And I think with a corner stamp, when you've created a piece of artwork like I have, I don't want anything to go wrong. So I think for the sake of a little bit of ink and a short bit of time, I think it's worth doing this. And what this does is it tells you if the distancing is equal all the way around. And I think that's pretty good actually. And it is in the corner. So I now am happy to proceed and actually stamp it onto my card. And in order for me to stamp it onto my card or my topper, I'm just making sure that those magnets are in. I can't put one here to secure this, but what I can do is bring those in to make sure that this is secure, or as secure as it can be. So loading up. If you happen to do this and when you stamp it down you miss something, that's okay. You can always go back in with your fine liner and just touch that up. Let's have a little look. And the good thing about using the stamp press, I like that, just got a hair here I think, just get rid of that. I don't want that on the next corner. There we go. What you can then do is remove your magnets, give it a twist, put it back into the same corner, and so it should be exactly as it was before. Okay, and then what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to blast it with the heat gun, purely because I don't want any of the black ink to make a mess when I'm turning it over. So I'm going to just quickly measure for you. So my base was 14.5 by 14.5. The next layer that it is going on to is 15 by 15. And then I'll just measure the next one. So we've got 14.5 by 14.5, 15 centimetres by 15. Then the next layer is 16 by 16, and then the next one would be 16.5 by 16.5. And you can cut it down to have as much or as little of a frame as you like. So let's grab our double-sided tape. So I'm hoping that you've enjoyed my tutorial today. I've had a bit of a play. I love this technique. I used exactly the same technique. If you've seen my card with the car and the scooter, they're done exactly the same way, same technique, creating the background, the border, and then drawing around the stencil, and then reconfiguring how I would like some of the flowers. So I've changed it up a little bit, moved the flowers around, redrawn them, which is nice because it means that my stencils now have, you know, a bit more purpose. I can move things around, I can shake things up a bit, I can, you know, use them how I like. And now I'm getting, more importantly than anything else, I'm now able to use my watercolour pens, and I feel a little bit more confident in using them. And I'm by no means the expert, but it just means that I'm now using some of my craft products that a few weeks ago I was really too scared to use. And they look great on my shelf, but they need to be used. Our craft equipment needs to be used, because, you know, what's the point in us buying it? So I'm glad I've given it a go. I quite like the idea of using the pen around the outside, so give it a go. You know, hopefully if you're not confident in using your watercolour pens, it will help you to be more confident. You can't see the pencil marks, and if you could always just grab a really soft rubber eraser and just lightly just take it off. But I don't, with the black lines that fine liner has created, I don't think you can see any of the pencil marks. I don't think it's making that much of a difference, but I've rubbed it over anyway so you can see that you can. Just make sure that you've heat gunned it, because otherwise your black ink will splodge everywhere. And there's my original, and there's the second one. But as I say, if I wanted to, I could have added equally, definitely could have fitted another flower in up there and could have woven that stem through. So, you know, have a play and let me know how you get on. So hopefully you've enjoyed it today. Thank you for watching. Bye for now.